This week on Rockstar Superhero. Today's show comes with a word of warning. Sure, I'll be catching up with my old friends from Norway's stellar progressive jazz metal outfit, Yawn, but we'll also be discussing immensely technical music terminology pretty much the entire time. In other words, if you like to hear about guitar reamping and production techniques, well, today's show was made for you, especially when you toss in the inevitable weird reference that this interviewer is known for. Fortunately for all involved, it was old hat. For you, the listener, well, I apologize on behalf of everyone. This is our weirdly offbeat conversation about the creation of a stunning new album, Materialism, and another funny talk with one of the most unique bands in the world. This is Yawn on Rockstar Superhero. So, let's get to it. Congratulations on the new album, guys. Materialism is a bomb. I know it hasn't come out officially yet, but I've heard it. And of course, I'm familiar with the band. I've been in love with the band since I discovered you guys a couple of years ago on social media. And being a former session drummer, you know, I'm drawn to anything that's remotely challenging, that's outside the box, right? And you guys have found a way to take material that's clearly math influenced and rhythmic and polyrhythmic and atonal and whatnot, and you've taken it way outside the box, but you've brought us with you. And somehow, I get it, it's not going to be for everybody, but somehow it works. It works on a cellular level, right? And it pulls people into the music, and it brings us to where you're at. You're not coming to us. You're not serving us the way a band traditionally services a listener. You're forcing us to come to you, but you've made it easy for us to do so, and it's completely badass.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, and I mean it 100%. It's an incredible work, full of odd titles. It sounds like a Emerson, Lake and Palmer record. You should be wearing capes when you're on stage.
Yeah.
We might get there one day. I mean,
yeah.
So let's get to some of the basic nuts and bolts before we go off on some weird tangent again. Oscar, did you produce the record? Who produced the record?
All of us is included in the production. But the last couple of months has been a lot of producing on my side. Yeah. A lot of with the spaciness, the ambience, transition stuff and stuff like that. Yeah. That is the most time consuming stuff. Yeah. But for all of us three has been producing, all of us at some points.
Yeah.
I think we also divided like. Torfinn has the most sort of maybe knowledge and the strongest opinions about the guitar sounds, for example, whereas I maybe had a bit more to say about the electronic stuff. So we kind of, where we could, maybe offered our individual whatever expertise or expert opinions on things. But it was kind of a nice way to work, like bouncing ideas off of each other, and then instead of working alone in the void and just like hoping your ideas are cool, like having somebody else to be like, yeah, that's actually, let's try it, or like, no, we're not going to waste our time with that or whatever. So
Yeah. Torfinn?
Yeah, it's like Mike said, it's been kind of divided who can participate with what. It's been, I think most of the, I mean, obviously Oscar is the one who has mixed the record, and he has also done most of the sound designs in terms of synthesizers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
While Mike has been programming these insane electronic parts, the digital soundscapes, and my contribution has been more of, me and Oscar has done a lot of recording sessions together where we've
the production-wise dubbed material with other sounds in the room, and I feel like it has been a lot of sessions that has been very on all ends. It's always been a positive energy towards the final product, and no one has gotten in the way of each other, and
That's good.
I really love this workflow.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I mean, so it's hard for me. I'm not going to lie. It's hard for me to separate my music brain from my listener brain, right? Because as a creative person myself, I'm 55, right? And so I started playing when I was very, very young. So over 50 years now, I've been in some form of percussive state, right? As a musician, I'm listening to rhythms. And so as a listener, I can't help but listen to the music first as a rhythmic work. And then I start catching the soundscapes and the melodies. But I just a half an hour ago, my daughter's home actually from school today. She's sick, and she came in here and sat down next to me as I was setting up for today. And she said, "Dad, who are you talking to?" And I said, "Oh, these are my friends, Yawn. They're from Norway, and they've got this really cool, different type of music." And she put the headphones on and she listened to it. And the first thing she said, I think I played her Cement, the first track, right? That's Cement, part 1, I should say. And she sat down and she listened to it, and immediately she said, "Oh, and it was really interesting because I didn't plant the seed. She said, "They are reducing the length of the bar." And I was like, "What?"
Yes. Yes.
Right. Like, I'm going to tell her you're freaked out by that because it's so badass. Like the fact that she caught that, and I was trying to explain, how it kind of works and how the subdivisions work and where the rhythms are in there. And I said, "Now check this out." And then it went into the melodic section, which is about 30 seconds into the piece, right? It starts, and she was just had her eyes closed, and she was just like, "Oh my God, this is so cool," And then I remembered back when she was 2 years old, she used to play puzzle games and she would listen to animals as leaders.
Yeah.
So basically, I've got a really cool household that plays really cool music to crazy children, and I'm programming them now.
Yeah.
No, but that means the world to us to hear those kind of stories, and it's also so great. Like a month ago or something, I was walking around in the halls on the Academy of Music, the Norwegian Academy of Music, and there was this guy approaching me, and he had just heard Cement, and he started asking me these questions like, is this the time signature? Is it the 17/4 or something? I was like, I have no idea. It's just shorter every time. I had the same explanation as your daughter, And I was like, no, but it's like if you count it as this. I had no idea what it was talking about. I relate way more to the thing you now explained. That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if I've actually ever fully counted it out, but I would find myself subdividing in eighth notes.
We haven't neither.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wonder they. You know what I mean? So it was. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of riffs, a lot of sections on the record that all of us feel or like think about in different ways, like in our own way. We've talked about it before, like how are you counting that part? And it's like, well, we're not even on the same grid. Like it's kind of interesting. Like we have, I think that's kind of the nice thing about a lot of the music is that it kind of maybe isn't important what the sheet music or the tabs would look like. It's more like thinking in broad strokes, like, it's just one phrase that gets shorter, or it's just this feeling of like slowing down and speeding up or whatever.
Yeah. Well, when I was in high school, I was really into Kansas and Rush. Okay. Because back then, so this is late 70s, early 80s, back then we didn't have I mean, we didn't have bands like Yawn and Meshuggah, right? I mean, we just didn't have that. It wasn't a thing. It hadn't been invented. The style, this dissonant or this complex style. I mean, even King Crimson wasn't doing that sort of thing, right? This is a next level. This is an evolution of what I would call difficult music, right? But back then, I would play drums along to these different records. And my mom always would say she could tell I was playing drums to Kansas or Rush because when she walked by the room, she felt like she was tripping. You know what I mean? Because there wasn't traditional pulse. It was, everything's in 7 or 9 or 11, right? And so it always felt slightly off to her. And she said she could never really do anything except sit down and listen. She couldn't do anything while that music was happening. And I feel the same way with your music. I want to listen to it and I want to interpret it how it's going to go through my lens. But I'm not sitting here trying to count it. I just want it to, right? I feel the natural bounce in it regardless of its complexity. What you were saying, Mike.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this a little bit. Like, there's like whatever math, or there's ways to intellectualize how the music works. But I think it's pretty important for us that people still want to move to it, or whether that's headbanging or tapping your foot or however you express yourself. But like, I don't want people to be at a show like trying to count to 13 or some shit like that. Like
no.
That's that's not the right place for that. So yeah, I think that's good. I think that's the right idea. If you maybe can't figure out what it is, but you can sort of intuitively feel it in your body, I think that's kind of where we're aiming for, maybe.
Yeah. Are you cautious as a band to write? Okay, so this is kind of a weird, complex, so I'm going to bounce all over the idea here. But I mean, as musicians, clearly you are, one, very practiced, very rehearsed. You have the ability to play complex things. You hear rhythms, you hear melodies that aren't traditional. I'm curious how much of it is willful, meaning are you seeking what's difficult? Or are you going with what happens?
I think it's in some ways this is like the last episode we did. I remember we talked about breaking rules and stuff, and the same mentality kind of applies here. That in order to break the rules, you have to know the rules. So
that rule is not for me. I don't know the rules.
no, but I just think that, like, in terms of playing complex music, the goal is not to write a song where we at the same time learn how to play hard riffs and hard time signatures and rhythms. It's more like we have explored a lot of those things, and based on that, we might do a song that is like not hard at all or not complex at all, but at the same time, maybe we will do that. It's kind of broadening the freedom of the musical choice in the writing process.
I can share a thought. The same thing as you said, but I like to think on it like I always aim for something new or different, like something that has not occurred in my head before. And then like an easy way might be to jump to another subdivision, for example. Like it's an easy way to do something that's not all over the place on Spotify and radio. But like the goal of using a weird subdivision is not the case for me. It's more like that is a tool to accomplish a result that's different.
That was maybe actually what I was trying to say. We
other ways of thinking it.
Well, it's interesting because you saying what you just said, Oscar, reminds me of kind of what Meshuggah does, right? They're they're subdividing in a way that rotating pattern comes back to one eventually.
Mm.
And you guys aren't doing that.
No.
You're thumbing your nose at that. You're saying, no, we're taking you on this journey, and we're breaking the rules, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Meshuggah is, as you say, for me, Meshuggah is holy, right?
Yeah, I'm not knocking them. I mean, understand that. I'm not knocking holy. The church of Meshuggah.
No, but Meshuggah is holy in all ways. They kind of did the biggest exploration in modern metal music, and that's the reason why I cannot do the same. Like, I cannot follow their path.
Right.
But I also love it the most. But I need to avoid the same. Their innovation is it's very easy to get connected to be a copycat and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's unfair, and I apologize too. I don't want to offend you guys, but the problem with writing, again, difficult music, whatever you want to call Yawn, when you're writing progressive jazz metal, right? There aren't too many things that come up, right? Or there's bands that are sort of seen as extremists trying wild things like Igor or Rings of Saturn or Frontierer, right? These are bands that are sort of jumping off the noise cliff and daring you to follow. You know, I don't see you guys doing that.
No, not the same way. I think
it's hard. I don't know what their like motivations are, but there might be some things in common with the reason why they make their music and the reasons we make our music. But the expression, like the aesthetics, might be quite different. Mm-hmm. I think like we have. Maybe the collective aesthetic it's not as much like Balkan wedding music or like shred pyrotechnic tap press guitar.
Not enough accordion.
Yeah, I mean, not at this point. Who knows? Maybe the next record, but like we have, like for us, for example, there's other elements like the improvisation and maybe electronic stuff that the way we approach that is sort of maybe based on our like influences and the other kind of music that we like and listen to. So but I don't know. I mean, like those bands are cool, and like maybe there's something. Maybe they kind of have the same. You know, underneath there's an idea about like bringing in different genres and sort of trying to mix them together and come up with something new, and that's the way they're doing it, and we're cooking a different cake, I guess. But
I like your cake a lot, Mike. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
It's good for your health.
It is. It is. It's a lot more protein in this, a lot less sugar. So
that's right.
Pretty powerful. So Oscar, I have to ask you then. So the material is, I mean, when you're playing live, are you playing with a click track, or is this just really well rehearsed in the sense of like the level of tightness is pretty stunning?
Live, it is a click track, yes. But the click track is not a very common type of click track in a way. Mike knows everything about that.
We tried to explain this on a similar call the other day when Mike wasn't there, and that turned into a disaster. So I think we'll let Mike take it from here.
I mean, I don't know what you guys. I'm curious about what you said.
Isn't it just the subdivision? Just to pick the subdivision of the song, and that's where the click is?
Well, the thing is that the way. So I've made kind of a software for this band to use,
nice.
which is both does like the clicks, and it also does some like live processing things. At the last concert we did in December, it was also synchronized a light show that Torfinn created that was synchronized to our clicks. Nice. And it's kind of this ever expanding program that kind of lets us do as much as possible that we do on the record. We're able to do live in like a super synchronized way. So like a lot of bands would play with clicks, but one of the things that makes our system kind of unique is that we can actually loop sections and like improvise, or we can, stop the click and start it again in the middle of a song. It's totally flexible and customizable, and we can change tempos anytime we want, or we can do things like this. So the live show has this. I mean, the music that you hear sounds on the recording is super tight, and at times it sounds really like, how could they possibly do that? But we kind of have these tools that let us maybe do whatever we want, or eventually like it'll sort of be able to help us sort of push the music beyond what's humanly possible, let's say.
Right. Or understood currently, right?
Yeah. I mean, like there's certain things that I'm like, we've talked about this a lot. I'm really into the music of certain like artists or composers or whatever, where things are happening in two different and unrelated tempos. And that's pretty hard to do live without a click track or like a conductor or something. But pretty soon we'll be able to do that without any problem.
That's so great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, I think.
I think that the coolest thing about this is that we don't use a DAW. It's just Mike writes a code.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's insane. Are you able to share screen? Maybe you can show Rob your code?
Yeah, let's put it out there into the world.
It already is out there
really?
for the world, because I write it. It's an open source programming language. And
nice. Was it Linux?
It's called Super Collider.
Okay.
Can I share my screen? Share screen.
Yeah, go for it. Let's see if we can see it. Do I have to allow you to share screen? I know our listeners right now are like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I can hit share. I don't know if you can share on your.
I think I can do it. I'll put it on another screen here.
Okay. So this is, I'm going to title this "Nerds Beware" because this is music nerd 101 stuff. I love it.
Yeah,
this is super nerdy.
I mean, let's get down to it, guys. People who listen to this type of music are people like us.
yeah.
I mean, this is not being played with the Kardashian family.
Don't you think the Kardashian family are writing Super Collider software? What?
Oh my God!
I'm
it's actually. It's not letting me share my screen unless I have to restart my browser.
Oh God! Oh, let's not do that. No. But I'll trust you. I would still like to see it though, if you ever want to fire it over.
But you
here you go. Here you go.
You now? Yeah,
so add to stream. Oh my God!
There you go. Yeah.
That's some crazy, wacky stuff.
This is a website called GitHub, which is like Dropbox for programmers.
Right.
So you can store things. And this is like the main chunk of the Yawn code, which kind of like schedules things and runs things. And it's still a work in progress. So it works, but we just added a whole bunch of stuff yesterday, for example.
Yeah.
So we have, each song has its own, file. Here's Cement with, MIDI tracks that run the light show.
Yeah. So the light show is being run by MIDI.
Yeah.
Wow.
Torfinn can fill you in.
It's kind of I assign a DMX program. I assign DMX faders to.
This is the world we live in.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the DMX? So you got 512 channels per universe, right?
Yeah.
And then I assign every fader to be triggered by a MIDI note in Logic. Right. I use Logic as a DAW.
Right.
So, or not every. I usually leave the dimmers up, but then I assign a color to a note, and then the velocity of the note, the MIDI note, will decide the strength of the color. And I can mix colors and also add like strobes and moving parameters and stuff.
Wow.
Then I export the MIDI. Mike load it into his spaceship and then converts the MIDI files into the DMX interface, like send it into the DMX interface, and then into the house rig, and then woof.
Wow. So can you do this? I mean, does this have to be pre-set, or can this be done on the fly? In other words, as you strike your string, and maybe the velocity of the string vibration can affect the brightness of the light. Can you do that live?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, easy.
Oh my God, I thought that's what you said, but I wasn't sure.
We haven't
we live in a crazy
fully
world,
integrated that yet, but it will be that won't take long to do.
Wow.
So it's kind of absurd, actually. Yeah,
it is absurd. So I got to say this. I don't know how to make this go away, so I'll let you unshare.
Do you want me to get rid of that? Yeah.
Well, only because not. Oh, there we go. I got it. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Thank you, people, for letting us go on that tangent.
Everybody can check it out online.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely include it in the video.
If people are interested, if they also like work with Super Collider, they can download, or like they can take the code and use it for themselves with their own song files and stuff. So
that's super cool, man, and very kind of you as well. So thank you for doing that.
Sharing is caring.
It is. So now, Oscar, being a drummer, and I understand this because I myself am one. There's a weird responsibility on us that really doesn't lie on anybody else. And not to say that that's not true in your band, because clearly Mike's got all these things going. Torfinn has all these things going. There's a lot going on. Everybody seems to be intensely responsible for what's happening with the band. However, if you drop the beat in any capacity, you're kind of screwed. And I'm wondering, because I was telling my wife this morning. I said, look, I'm talking to Yawn today. I love this band. Like, I'm crazy about the guys. I love their music. I could play that music personally, but I could never, ever be in the band, because I'd want to kill myself. The stress, the stress of doing that live would be overwhelming to me. How do you handle that? You're like, no big deal.
But I gotta say, it's easier than you think it is. It's not easy, but it's not that. It might sound harder than it is.
Right.
Like I'm when I'm writing or arranging drums or whatever, I'm very often choose the lazy way of playing stuff.
Nice.
But,
at least you're honest.
Yeah, but like it's more important that I have some extra energy to play it very well than to play a little bit too hard stuff. In general, I think like that way, but now it's very automated in my muscles. The music, on the album, basically.
Yeah.
And then probably you noticed like no rhythms are going very fast. Like
right.
It's the tempo is pretty okay everywhere, but it's very intense. It's very easy to mix maybe tension with speed or whatever. Speed is an easy it's a very logic way to create tensions with double bass pedals and just play as fast as you can. But I'm not a fast playing drummer, so I try to I'm not sure if I'm answering.
No, it's fine.
But my focus is a little bit different, I think, regarding that. It's not that like things are very I guess very well rehearsed, and we played it for a while now, and also it helps when I'm one of the composers. It's harder to play others' music, which is very difficult.
Yeah. I was trying to explain that to somebody recently. They were talking about, I think it was an Animals as Leaders track. And I said, fine. There's two ways you can learn this. You could have written it, or you could have heard it 9,000 times, and eventually it just becomes part of you. You feel the space in it. You feel the beats, right? And that just takes time. There's no way around it. I think what makes you guys really fascinating to me is you have this the mindset of jazz musicians, right? You mentioned earlier that you love the idea of having being able to say solo over the top of a repeating pattern. And that, like it's like having a real book, right? You're playing the head down and then you're going back again. And now this time it's Torfinn's chance to solo or Siemens' chance to solo, right? And I think that comes from that old school jazz mindset of basically playing through the track over and over 4 or 5 times. How much do you think the way you grew up in the music and what touched you as children, what kind of music you grew up on, speaks into who you are now as adults? Because again, nobody was playing Yawn type music 25 years ago. No, I mean nobody. And here we are today, and it's almost like you're part of a new standard.
Yeah, thanks for that comment and note.
Yeah.
But technology is also plays a very big part of it. Like in a way, players in the good old days, they fight a lot more because like they only had their drum kit and bass guitar and guitar. Like in a way, the craftsman's the craft work of old musicians is higher in some ways. Like they had skills that people don't have today because of technology, click tracks, computers, stuff like that.
Listen, like listening skills.
Yeah.
I would like to add that they at least had a lot of solutions to problems we don't deal with anymore, and that might be a good thing, and it might be giving us time to work on something else. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but it's interesting, Torfinn, because I think about. There's the only thing I can talk about is my own personal experiences, and I of course I don't want to make these shows about me, but the thing that I remember is you couldn't go into the studio until you had 2 things ready: a big wad of cash, because it was tremendously expensive, and you had to be rehearsed to a level that, I mean, you almost never were, right? I mean, you have to have the ability to sit down and play that song, say 12 times in a row. Right, and then you would just pick the best take, and then you would wipe the tape, and that was it. And if somebody cut the tape wrong, you're back to square one. I mean, they were using razor blades and tape, man. I mean, it was crazy days, and that's the way it was, and you couldn't go back and you fix. You couldn't move. You couldn't move a missed kick part. Your bass drum, you might have hit just a little early. You might have anticipated a little early, and you couldn't fix it. But there was beauty in those inconsistencies. But for me as a musician, I love what's happening today. I'm so envious. It overwhelms me, but I love the fact that you guys can sort of release these sort of idealized parts. You can go as far as your vision sees, and that is extraordinary. The fact that you guys are programming your own stuff, you're probably changing the game, not just internally for your own band, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we look back at this day 30, 40 years from now, and the majority of musicians, at least maybe in this genre, are utilizing Mike's and Torfinn's work. You know what I mean? Saying, these are the guys that set the standard. You guys are the new Meshuggah, if you will.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I would certainly say that the way we're doing things wouldn't be possible without. Well, first of all, like we're either or, like lazy and poor.
Lazy.
So it's like maybe lazy is not the right word, but it's like you know, there are solutions that exist for some of these things out there. Like you can hire somebody to do you know, do your lights. We could have hired somebody to do all the production. We could have hired an engineer. Part of it is that I think we want the creative control over everything, and we have like a vision of what it could be or should be and how to get there. And then part of it is that we also are really lucky to have the kind of tools and like have access to tools that let us experiment with things and try and like do it all ourselves. Like it's something also about this like generation that like if you want to learn how to mix, you can learn on YouTube and then just practice in like free software, and you can get pretty good, and you don't need to like go to school or work at Abbey Road or something like that. You can just kind of do it in your bedroom. Yeah. And that's kind of like we all have an education in music somehow, but you know, my programming, I mean, I studied it a little bit, but a lot of what I've learned has kind of been on my own time. And I think that you know, I'm not the best programmer in the world, but it's like I'm stubborn as hell and don't want to pay somebody else to do it. And I think that's sort of in our case, it sort of works to our advantage, because then we have like complete control over everything, and we know that if we want to get something done, we just do it. We just figure out a way to do it. Yeah. Torfinn basically learned how to program DMX like light shows in a few months, like from zero knowledge.
Yeah, I think that's actually pinpointing the most common thing about all of us in this band, is that we are so stubborn. It's like we have never given up on anything, and most of the cases it's in terms of we can't afford to pay someone to do this, so I'm gonna do it. Like
yeah. No, man, it makes sense. You know, I mean, it just flat out makes sense. But you know, I'm gonna come back a little bit on something you said, Mike, and that is, regardless of the technology today, or regardless of what's available on YouTube. And I mean, I agree 1,000%. There's so much content. If you want to know anything about anything, you can find it. It's and learn it. And it's just really to what level are you committed, right? I mean, when you get down to it, but you cannot play the type of music. You cannot create the type of music just by programming. I mean, you guys have big inherent skills, big rehearsed skills, traditional old school born in you talent. You can't do these things. I mean, I know, because I'm a talented guy too. You cannot do what you do without a ton of work. So, I mean, I just want to say to listeners out there that, you know, these guys are telling you the truth, that if you want it, you can go after it. And there's the tools are available to you, but it doesn't negate the fact that there's a huge mindset here. There's a ton of purpose and passion and an immense amount of rehearsal to get to this level.
That's for sure, I would say. There's especially like these two guys at the bottom of my screen.
Yeah.
I put in like an insane amount of work in the last, especially like the second half of 2021, like all the production stuff, all the tracking and reamping and just ridiculous. And now in preparation for the release and the tour, like all the booking and promotion, and it's I get to sit in front of a computer and scribble out lines of code and listen to Meshuggah while I'm doing it. And these guys have been, it's very inspiring to work alongside people who like give so much to a project. I think that's also maybe what helps me to like be like, okay, I gotta keep up. I gotta do my part, you know?
Yeah.
And it's exciting because it feels like there isn't like, instead of like we're sort of pushing each other, not in a competitive, like a destructive way, but kind of like somebody does something, makes a breakthrough or whatever, and it's like, oh, like that's, you know, you get excited, and then, oh, now I'm gonna, you know, go work on my part of the project or whatever.
Yeah. It's the 4-minute mile, man. Nobody could run the 4-minute mile until one guy ran it, and now everybody can run a 4-minute mile.
That's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. And I think it's pretty, at least for me, it's very rare to be in like sort of projects or like collaborative creative situations where you have that. It's very often it's like one person doing like majority of the work and then everybody else sort of chipping a little bit. But it's pretty cool to have, you know, we divide different parts of the work up. And we just said this yesterday, like, I don't really understand anything about lights, and that's okay. I trust Torfinn's work, and I sort of understand my side of how to interface with his work. And we don't all have to understand everything. We can all sort of, you know, delegate, divide the work up, and I think in the end we sort of use our time really well and come up with this, you know, Ultron, Megatron sort of situation at the end.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm telling you, I've been so looking to find anything you guys said so I could reference one of the titles on an album. I love Restart, Reload, Rebuild. I've always loved that piece. That's, I mean, of all your work, that is those singular piece that just kind of blows me away and gives me complete joy. And I just sit and close my eyes and I'm enraptured by it. One of the things I don't think I asked you last time we talked is, I mean, where do these ideas, I mean, come on, they have to come from somewhere. It can't be just as simple as sitting down and saying, how do we make this difficult, right? So we talked about that last time. That doesn't work, right? That's boring. So how does something come together? Where does the germ of the idea come from? Of any piece, of any song?
I can try to come up with an example in that particular song you mentioned now, because it's a part of Cement, you know. So we have that right, and it's very much based on what Oscar earlier said about using tools and subdivisions in this case to change up something just to give another spin to the music. You know, the most part of this piece is actually just the dun 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 dun.
Right.
And then it's like everyone's playing that, and then it's a guitar solo with the same figure laying underneath. But then after the guitar solo, we go into the ta 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 wow, and then you know we play the same amounts of notes on the same note, but it's changed from 3 against 4 until 5 against 4. So everything is just moved, and that's kind of a difficult thing, you know. We rehearsed a lot to try to make that work, but that is
it also changes tempo at the same time as well.
Yeah, right. We go down in tempo like 10 BPM or something.
10 BPM down.
Yeah, but so and then it's slowing down. You know, it's all building. It starts from this idea of changing the subdivision to change it up, and then what if we even slow the whole new subdivision thing down, stop, and then go into a familiar part again. I think that's how a lot of the complex ideas start. It's not like about the complexity, it's just about using the fundamentals you have and changing it into something new using the tools you have.
Yeah man. It's so unfair that you guys are so far away. One, I want to hang out with you guys personally. Two, I want to see you play live. I mean, I get it. I can see you online, but it's not the same thing, right? You don't feel that intense, all that pressure in the room, the power of the guitars, the amps, and the bass drum just bludgeoning you. But I know we got to get to that because I know we're limited in time here. The new album Materialism comes out on February 18th, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've as hopefully everybody heard this in the beginning. I've heard the whole thing. It's all the things. It's all the things I thought it would be. But what I love about it the most is the record as a whole. First of all, it tells a musical story. It really tells a story, and you have to be listening to it. And the titles, of course, are subjective because there's words in there that, from an English speaker's point of view, I don't know what those words are, or I don't know what they're referencing. Right, the traditional in Prague, for example, you'll get, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but you'll get made up words or words that sound like they're Latin, but they're not, right? Or right, or whatever, or like the whole Bytor and the Snow Dog. What the hell is Bytor? I mean, you get it, but the album as a whole, I mean, the way it starts and the way it ends, it's a completely bookended, progressive, jazz, metal, dissonant, complex, dense. It's a freaking masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. And I couldn't wait till you came on the show today to talk about this, or maybe for me just to praise you. But it's such an extraordinary piece of work. And all of my progressive music friends, people who are listeners and as well as players, you know, the guys who go to Peabody Institute, you know, guys like that, right? They are so stoked about this new record. And I'm like, I've already heard it, you know, but I know I'm just kind of praising you right now. There's no question in here. But I guess what I wanted to know is, what did you have to think about? Because there's so much going on. How did you figure out from the production side, the order, and how did you come up with the tones? Because nowadays, with 10 billion options, all the different reamping and all the different things you can do, it's not like you put a microphone in front of a guitar amp and there's the sound. You can change everything now. How do you settle for the sound of Materialism?
Yeah, I can. I just the thing you said about story. That was the first thing you said. Creating a story from A to Z in English.
Yeah,
yeah. That is always kind of the most important thing. From the start of the process 3 years ago, story was the first thought and also the last thought. I just got to say that. But how we settle all the elements, it's pretty random.
Really? Are you serious? Really?
Yeah, the order of the album, like the track list, that was decided in the very beginning, before our first gig, actually. But the sound by then, 2 years ago, exactly 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
That sound and the sound it is today is very different, yes. Yeah. And with the reason why it sounds like it do now, I don't know. Can you explain that?
I think it's come with us getting to know each other better as well. 3 years ago, I knew Oscar a little bit. I didn't know Mike or Tarjei or Simon at all, the rest of the guys. So me and Oscar started working in his project studio, and it was a lot of the equipment and ideas were very new. You know, I brought in the Kemper and the 8-string guitar, and Oscar had all these ideas about like production, and he is very far ahead of me in the production way. I just have to say that I could never have pulled off this any of this in the same level. So it was, and also a little bit difference in musical background, and getting to after a little while also meet Mike and have him revolutionize the whole idea with his programming wizardry. I just think like melting this sound together has been the biggest process of the last 3 years, and has been the most the part that has had the most effect on the final sound now, compared to what we had 3 years ago in the demos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And things also keep changing. Like you guys have bought some new gear. I bought some new gear in the last year. I've we keep, when we can, I think we keep upgrading either software or hardware or whatever. And I think the record turned out, I think it sounds amazing, but I think it also, things maybe even sound better now, maybe. I think some of those guitar sounds the new guitar sounds are pretty amazing.
They are very cool. We do our own Kemper profiles from a reamping. We made the guitar sound ourselves with actual amplifiers.
Wow.
So that's a way to get a more unique sound in a way.
I would never get any sleep if I was responsible for that. I wouldn't be able to stop producing, right? It's like, how do you stop? How do you tell yourself this is enough, right? Because I mean, there's so much going on in this. There's so much spatiality, like all the atmospheric stuff. Like, how do you decide to give it, a certain sort of tone or a certain sort of complexity without oversaturating that complexity or trying one more cool idea? I mean, can you address that, Mike? Because you seem to be responsible for more of the ambient stuff that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, Oscar also did a lot of the production, the ambient atmospheric things.
Okay.
And I think a lot of it, the parts that I contributed were kind of like, I would make a version and then bring it to the other guys and then say like, okay, like,
gotcha.
Does this fit the vibe, or is this like ridiculous? Am I totally like missing the point here? So I think part of the process, like that whole thing of like, should we do more? Have we done too much? I think I would have had more of those questions, I think, if I was just doing this alone, or doing my parts alone. But I think being able to bring it to these guys and then saying like, okay, I made a bunch of wacky electronic sounds. What do you think? And then getting some feedback like, yeah, this is cool, or like, yeah, maybe we should stop it, here, or like start to transition to something else or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was important for me, but maybe Oscar, you had a different process.
No, I agree with you, but just
never mind. Next question.
Yeah, perfect.
No, but,
and thank you. Good night.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but also again back to what you said. About when do we know we're finished with the track?
Right.
If I use the track Erebus and Terror as an example, that's the right.
Yep.
That is the ambience. Yeah. So. Yeah, that track is probably the most time-consuming part that was created. Like, only that part was 2 months of pretty intense work.
But say a little something about the process of recording that, because that's a funny story.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah.
So in my head, the track is based on. That's that sound. You know what sound I'm speaking of?
Are you talking about like rubbing a vibrator on a table?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yep, that sound with a lot of the saturation and distortion, right?
I can't believe I said that out loud.
But that part is based on that sound, and also some piano samples. The piano melody is more. So those two, there is the camera. Those two, that one is recorded live at one concert, and that is recorded the day after, or a couple of days after. So
it's also worth mentioning that it wasn't like overdub from in the studio. It was actually, we did a tour in 2020 after the release of the first version of Cement.
Right.
And this piece, Erebus and Terror, is actually stitched together from a section of our set that is an improvised duo with Mike and Tarjei. And Oscar just picked parts from the live recordings, and so that's from 2 concerts. We haven't done that in the studio, actually, like the most of it.
Yeah, but then arranging a little bit in the studio was like I haven't added very much of sound, but the process of time things up and make things lap together and add the small stuff, that is like that was a very hard part of work. But yeah, basically it is two improvisations from 2 concerts.
Wow.
I actually came across the video of one of those concerts the other day, and I saw it, and this exact part, and I was like, holy shit, that's very similar to the recording. Yeah. And then I realized it is the recording. This is the album.
He didn't tell you.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. You know, I want to end well here because I know this has been a highly technical discussion.
It's been kind of different from our last conversation.
Yeah. No, man, but it's really cool. I mean, I love it because I mean, I'm deeply fascinated by this, and honestly, I mean, I probably don't even understand half of it because I'm not in that game anymore, right? I mean, I certainly understand the bigger picture of it, but the idea of creating X and Y and doing Z in a studio is not something I've ever experienced because I haven't recorded an album in 20 years. But I'm curious what, you know, with Materialism coming out and you guys come out, you guys are doing a short tour of Europe in the coming weeks after that, right?
Yeah.
So what are you hoping? I mean, I get it. You understand full well that there's a type of music that is completely satisfying to play. Like Yawn music as a musician has to be the best kind of music to play because it's completely self-serving. You're playing music you love and you've created. They're your children. And you know full well that the audience is going to be people like us, right? People who like this type of music and want to be challenged and they want to be taken somewhere. Knowing all those things, do you hope that your tours open up the audience to new ideas, or are you just hoping to get it out there so you can share it with people? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is you understand that you're never going to be U2 or the Rolling Stones because the music isn't easy to digest, right? So what are you hoping to get out of getting out there? And I mean that in a nice way, like in the best way, because you guys are true artists to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I take it in the right way. But I think the music, like they're both the record and the live show is like pretty stylistically diverse, and I think it's cool. Like if people kind of come away from listening to either the record or the live show, and like they don't have to like everything, but I mean, if they find something in there they like, that's really great. And it may be that maybe they discover something like a new kind of music or a new aesthetic or something that they never heard before and they didn't even know they liked. And you know, I mean, I think there are some people who will maybe come to the shows for the guitar solos, and some people that will come for the live electronics. And it's also kind of creates this interesting community of people in the audience where it's like, maybe these people wouldn't normally hang out, but maybe there's not actually, maybe they have more in common than they think.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's great to like get out and share our music with people, but I think it's exciting to see, like, you know, the kind of people who will gather around this project. And also, you know, if there's other bands or other people that kind of get inspired by this and this becomes, you know, some trends emerge or other people start doing similar things, like I'm all for it. I think that's super cool. So
yeah.
That's my perspective. I don't know what you guys do. Do you have a plan for world domination?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I thought we signed the paper and
That's right.
You gave your blood to Satan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think, I mean, so I'm going to answer it for you because this is what I think. I think Yawn's music, and especially, I mean, look, if this is anything compared to what I've seen online, the stuff you did in 2020, you know, the live shows you were doing, you know, with the synchronized lights and whatnot. If that's the beginnings of what you're doing, meaning nowadays you're doing an advanced version of that, coupled with a band that has had 2 years to really, really hone everything, hone the sound and hone the look and hone the style and just to get tighter as musicians, I think you're really looking at an experience. And as Mike said, it's some of it you may not enjoy as you know, I may not enjoy, I don't know, you know what I mean? But I know that I'm going to be having a compelling experience that is going to take me to a place that I've never been. And that is immensely appealing and far more appealing as a concert goer than as, you know, a snobby musician, right? They don't say we're going to go listen to a band. Nobody says that. When they go to a concert, they say we're going to go see Yawn today.
Yeah.
Right? So it's that combination of things. And I mean, I think you guys are a perfect experience for not just the discriminating listener, but anybody who has the courage to just go and absorb something new.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
I also think that, you know, it's the most it's the biggest impact we can give to people is to actually perform for them live. It's you know, maybe not everyone will feel that way, but most of the times we play, at least a few people tell us that this was very unique and cool experience. And as you said, we're not going to be U2 or Foo Fighters. We can't just read off some statistics on Spotify and say, yeah, we have a commercial success in this city, so we will go there and perform. I think it's in our case, it makes way more sense to just go there and get some cool local bands to play with, and then get the chance to actually bring the audience or show. And then give them something unexpected. I really think that's the best way to get the music out there.
I agree. I think I was gonna say that also when you can surprise people or like shock people, that becomes a very memorable experience. Mm-hmm. And I think I don't think anybody has maybe come to our shows expecting it to be trash, but I've had like some friends come to the show because they're my friends, not because they are into like metal or heavy music or anything, and then kind of be like, you know, surprise themselves that like, actually I enjoyed that and I want to see you guys the next time you play.
Yeah.
And that's
huge.
Pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, that says something.
Yeah. If anything, I mean, I think you guys, I mean, look, I mean, if I'm booking you, I'm putting you on the festival circuit because you're a festival band to me. One, it gets you in front of a big audience, and there's going to be a highly diverse crowd. But you're an experiential thing. And I think it's kind of like going to a movie theater. If you go if you go see a movie in a theater, it's a wildly different experience than watching it at home because, you know, if you see a horror movie or see a comedy, everybody's invested in it together and you're having that experience. It's a collective experience versus your interpretation, right? Because you're getting feedback from everybody else in the room. And I would love to see you in a big festival sort of setting because you're going to have people who don't get what's going on, but that level of mesmerization, if there's such a word, right? It's going to happen just because of they're seeing so much and they're hearing so much and they're in sort of sensory overwhelm. You know what I mean? I think that's the setting for you guys. And no matter what you do, small shows, big shows, I hope everybody notices it because it's completely badass. I mean, that's why I wanted you back. I love you guys, man. I'm crazy about you guys.
We love you too.